Okay, so one thing I've noticed in my reading of all these textbooks and little handbooks and advice books about how to write an essay is they always give this giant list of here are the 96 things that you need to do to make sure that you are writing a good thing, and here are the 12 items that will save your life in case of a fire or an essay that you have to write. What I found, though, is that really there are only four things that you really need to think about and that I've found over years and years will distinguish a good essay from an essay that is less good. These four things are all, they're not necessarily just like little check mark things like put your name on the paper or anything like that. These are each of these four things is something that is going to require constant vigilance. It's going to require your dedication. It's going to require your attention, not just once, when you're writing a paper, but in an ongoing fashion. But these are things that when I have to write an essay, I still keep in mind. Oh, did I keep in mind the third element of a great essay? Did I make sure to handle the first element of a great essay? And I actually have to go through and continue to remain vigilant about these things myself. But these four things will really help you a lot. So here's the first one. Anticipate your opposition. What does that mean? Anticipate your opposition. Well, if you're writing an essay, if you're writing an argument, if you're trying to persuade somebody of something, there's going to be an opposition. There's going to be another side. And the best thing that you can do right out of the gate is you've got to anticipate them. You've got to know what they're going to do. And the thing is that it's not just a matter of knowing how they're going to argue and arguing against it. It sometimes means just even acknowledging that what they're saying is right, or acknowledging their viewpoint while then using your own viewpoint to overcome. All right, and there's one thing that will really help with this, and they're called acknowledgement words. Okay, this is like a suite of words that will really assist you a lot in just making sure that you're dealing with your opposition and not letting them overcome. Okay, here are the words: while, although, whereas, however, and but. Okay, so these words, there are other ones, there are other ways to phrase it, like even though or whatever. There are other ways, but these ones will really help, especially while and although. These ones will really help you out. Because the thing is that if you're arguing with somebody, you don't just, the worst thing that you can do is just completely ignore that they have an argument at all. You don't just want to be like, la, 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 the other side isn't real. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you are acknowledging the other side's viewpoint and just saying that your side is better. Okay, so for example, if you're arguing that we should drill for oil in the Gulf of Mexico, what's the number one opposition to that? Well, probably people are going to say we shouldn't drill for oil because of ecological devastation. It's bad for the environment. Okay, so if you're in favor of drilling for oil, you wouldn't just want to completely ignore the environment. That's the mistake that a lot of people would make, right? You want to acknowledge it. So you would say, while there is the risk for some environmental damage, comma, in the long term, American energy independence is a more important issue. See how you play their card, and then you go ahead and you play your card on top of it? That's the thing that acknowledgement words can do. Say, for example, you're arguing the other way, that we should not drill for oil. You can say, although lower gas prices would be a benefit of drilling for oil, comma, the risk of long-term environmental devastation means that we should put long-term interests over short-term interests. See how that works? Okay, so that's the sort of the first element of a great essay, is you've got to make sure that you anticipate that opposition. You play their cards for them so that they can't argue against you, and then you end up overcoming it using those acknowledgement words. Okay, that's a great thing to do. All right, the second element: be eloquent. Okay, try to write with beauty. A lot of times when people write, they're just like type, just getting ideas out there. But that's not really going to help you out. You've got to strive to write with beauty. Okay, you want to be eloquent. Eloquent means that you're well spoken. It means that you're articulate. It means that you sound good. It makes you sound more smart. It makes you sound more trustworthy, more professional. Okay, so don't settle for the unmemorable. Okay, things that will really help you in terms of eloquence. A lot of times people will ask, like, how do I write more eloquently? And the best way is to read eloquent things, but there are a couple shortcuts. Okay, one, make sure to use image and metaphor. Image and metaphor will really help you out. Okay, so say for example, you're writing a paper about kids in the education system. Rather than just saying the schools are no good, okay, actually show them how the schools are no good. Show them the schools broken down. Let them smell the mold in the walls. Okay, let them see the lockers that are broken. Let them see the dated textbooks. Okay, use all those descriptive sensory details to help. Also, metaphor will work wonders. Don't just say a kid needs to be taken care of. Just say a kid is like a plant who needs water to grow. And like this, a child in the educational system needs good teachers to grow. See how you do that there? It makes your writing more memorable. Okay? The third element, use backup. Okay? Bring your friends. All right? That's what it is. You have all of history, personal knowledge, all your education working for you. Put it to use. Take advantage of outside sources. Let research guide you. One thing is that a lot of times people think that research is a pain in the butt to include in writing. They don't want to have that research in there. That's the worst thing you can possibly think. Research makes proving yourself easier, not harder. Okay? Like, imagine the lawyer trying to prove her client is innocent when she doesn't have any evidence. All right, it's not going to work. You got to have that outside research. That's going to help you. This doesn't mean copying stuff from other people. It's not plagiarism. It's accurately citing them. It's supporting them. It's bringing them in. Because a lot of times when you're writing something, you might not necessarily be the most credible source. You're just some random person. Okay, but say you're talking about physics, then you bring in Einstein. You bring in Michio Kaku. Okay, you bring in Brian Greene, and then all of a sudden, you're pretty smart. Okay, say for example you're talking about international politics, and then you start bringing in all of these great pundits. Like, those are the things that are going to help. A key thing about using backup, though, is that you've got to remember that it's credible. You can't trust just anyone. This is a problem in the internet era. Beware of the internet. Beware of the man in his underwear in his mom's basement who is spouting opinions on a blog. Okay, a lot of times people are like, oh, I got outside sources, and it's just a bunch of random stuff from random people. Okay, remember, you got to check the credentials on these things that you're supporting, because if you are writing an essay, you're getting into a fight, and you want somebody on your side who can swing a good punch, and they can only do that if they're legitimate. Okay, that brings us to the final element. Know thy audience. Okay, you got to know who you're talking to. Okay, why is who you're talking to important? It's because that's how you know how to speak to them. If you're talking to a bunch of atheists, you're not going to use religious examples. Okay, if you're talking to a bunch of religious people, you're not necessarily going to use a bunch of scientific examples, because they're not going to be able to hear these things. Okay, if you're talking to a bunch of people who are liberally minded, you're probably not going to be making a bunch of arguments about how we should all have guns. If you're talking to the NRA, you're not going to be talking about how guns are terrible. If you're doing that, you're probably going to lose. But if you know your audience, you can cater your argument to them more effectively. The thing that's interesting is that we all innately comprehend audience. You don't talk to your best friend like you talk to your mom, unless that's the same person in which you have other issues besides this. But we forget about audience when we're writing. So remember, keep audience in mind. For a lot of assignments, you're just going to think of your audience as being like an intelligent, knowledgeable individual who's, knows good stuff. Okay, but you want to always think, who am I writing this for? Okay, and that's going to be helpful in how you select your examples, how you anticipate your opposition, how you seek to use image and metaphor to be eloquent, what type of backup you bring, and of course, to know your audience, you got to proofread, because if your audience is intelligent, they're going to judge you poorly if you don't proofread. So, like I said, each of these four things, anticipating opposition, writing with beauty and eloquence, okay, using backup, and knowing your audience. These four things are all four things that you're going to have to think about it again and again and again. They're not things that are just going to like, oh, check mark, I got it. These are things you're going to have to remain diligent about. But if you sort of like write those down, paste those off, always have them there for you when you write. It's going to help you write content that is a lot crisper, a lot more memorable, a lot more rhetorically and argumentatively sound, and of course, you'll get a better grade.